Hello friends and welcome to the channel. In just a few short days, we're going to be hosting an event at our house. And as you can imagine, there's a gigantic list of to-dos we have yet to complete. Most notably is refreshing our guest bathroom. Now we've got a handful of things that we're looking to do here. We're going to replace the vanity. We're going to remove this medicine cabinet, fill in the hole in the wall with some drywall, patch that up, put in a new mirror. We're going to replace the light fixture, but given the size of the new vanity, we're gonna have to relocate the light fixture slightly. The toilet, we're not doing anything with that. However, my wife is going to wallpaper this back wall, and in order to do that appropriately, to have access, I've got to take the toilet out. So time is wasting. We've got lots to do, not a lot of time to get there. So let's get started.
I got a fever.
The first thing I'm going to do is remove the sink. And in order to do that, I have to turn off the water and then disconnect the supply lines. Once I have that done, I can disconnect the drain assembly and then remove the sink from the wall. As you can see, the drain assembly disconnects right here. I'm going to loosen this connection here, and that should allow me to pull out the drain, the rest of the assembly that's connected to the sink. All right, now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and remove the sink from the wall. There are a couple of brackets underneath the sink that appear to have some screws attached into the wall. So I'm going to remove those screws, and then looks like there's some caulking around the perimeter of the sink that I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, and then hopefully I should be able to shimmy the sink away after that. Let's see what happens. Well, there's my first dull moment of the project. The mounting screws just look like they are holding a support for the sink itself. So they're not physically connecting the sink to the wall. So after cramming myself into that uncomfortable spot and cramping up my hands to try and get those screws out, looks like all I have to do is remove the silicone around the edge of the sink, and I should be able to pry it loose from there. All right, now that the sink has successfully been removed, the next thing I'm going to tackle is the medicine cabinet. Should be pretty straightforward. It looks like there's just a couple of screws holding that in place. So I'm going to jump in, and hopefully this will go very smoothly. The next thing I'm going to do, now that we have the medicine cabinet removed in this opening here, we're going to fill this up with some drywall. So what I need to do is measure the piece of drywall that we need, and then we'll have to install some blocking to give it a little bit of support so we have something to screw it into, and then we can go ahead and tape it off and we should be all set. If you've never cut drywall before, the process could not be simpler. It's literally 2 cuts and you're done. I've gone ahead and marked out the length and width of the piece that I need. I've made it a little bit smaller than the opening that I'm looking to fill, just to give us some wiggle room. It does not have to be super tight. Now we just got to cut it. So all you really need is a straight edge and some sort of utility knife. So we're just going to line up the straight edge on our mark here and go ahead and make the initial cut. Now you don't have to go too deep, really just enough to penetrate the paper. Just give it a little score. And now that we've got a mark, we can turn this over and just kind of give it a little bit of a push. And you'll get a crease here. And you just cut through the paper and you're done. We've got the drywall cut and now it's time to install it. As I mentioned previously, we're going to put in some backer blocking behind the drywall to give it some support and give us something to screw it into. The nice thing about this type of setup when you're just doing a patch, I don't really care what the thickness of the drywall is. All I need to do is make sure that the blocking is set at such a level that my drywall is flush to the wall. I've got a sample piece of the drywall that we cut earlier, and I'm just going to set it in place and move the block until I like what I'm seeing. And right about there, we are flush with the wall. So that's going to be my mark. That's where I'm going to screw in the backing block. That's probably one of the most annoying sounds in the world. Blocking's now installed. We've got enough to support our drywall. We can finally get this piece put in place. If you find that things have shifted around on you and the drywall is not sitting perfectly flush with the wall, that's okay. As in this case, it's a little bit recessed, which isn't a big deal. We'd rather have it be recessed than protruding out from the wall, because we can just fill this with drywall compound. All right, while we wait for the mud to dry, we can turn our attention over to the toilet and work on getting that out of here. All right, moving on. While that drywall compound sets up, the next thing I'm going to do is remove the existing light fixture. Now, I've already gone ahead and turned off the power, so I've got my work lights that are extremely hot and annoying right now, but that's what I'm using to light the space here. The power's off to the light fixture. I'm going to go ahead and take that off right now. I have no idea how they installed that before. Looks like the bracket's just barely attached to an existing light box, and then just sort of attached to the drywall in some way, shape, or form. So not the best. So good thing we are going to address this. I'm going to go ahead and remove this bracket and see exactly where the wires are coming in, because as I mentioned previously, given the size of the new vanity, I'm going to have to relocate this slightly in order to have that centered perfectly on the new vanity. So let's see what we got. All right, in order to find the center location of the new light fixture, I've gone ahead and brought in the vanity. We're just going to put it in here temporarily so I can mark on the wall where the center line is, and then I'll show you how I'm going to find that. Using a laser level, I'm going to be able to line up this laser right on that center line. and that will give me the new location of the light box. Well, given the proximity of the new location compared to the old location, I really had no other choice but to cut a large opening and fill that with just a new piece of drywall, similar to what we did with the medicine cabinet. Now I need to tape and mud that patch, and hopefully I'll be able to move on relatively quickly after that. All right, it's a new day. The drywall compound has had a chance to dry out overnight, which means now I can go ahead and sand that nice and smooth. It is going to get a little dusty in here, so I've got proper protection. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Well, I've got that sanded nice and smooth. I went ahead and reestablished my center line for the light box. I'm now going to go ahead and mark that out, cut it to shape, and hopefully get this new light box in, and we'll be ready to move on to the next step. All right, we got that installed. It's nice and flush with the wall, and we are ready for the next step, which is wallpapering. Now, my wife's going to take care of that, so I'm not going to get involved in any way, shape, or form. So when we come back, there's going to be wallpaper on that back wall, and then we can get to work putting everything back where it needs to go. And here we are. I think everything turned out really, really good. Kudos to my wife for all the hard work she put into putting that up there. I've gone ahead and installed the light fixture just so we could have some light in here. I was tired of working under those work lights. I didn't film that, but I did do a video earlier on replacing a light fixture. So if you want to see more about how to do that, I'll leave a link to that video in the description. The next thing I'm going to do is reestablish my center line on this vanity and go ahead and mark the location on the baseboards where that vanity is going to go. All right, now that I've marked the location of the vanity, I can get that out of here temporarily to make room for the toilet reinstallation. Getting kind of sick of looking at this ugly thing. So we're going to get that covered up, get the toilet put back in place, and we'll be that much closer to finishing this project. Ladies and gentlemen, it is crunch time. It is the morning of the party. We're starting to set things up, and I still have a handful of things to do. I've got to install the faucet in the vanity and put the vanity in place, as well as take care of a few finishing details. Time is ticking away, so less talking, more action. Let's go. The first step to install the faucet is to feed the water lines and the faucet head through the hole at the top of the vanity. To secure the faucet head to the vanity, you'll take this gasket and screw and connect it to the underside of the faucet head underneath the vanity. You simply slide it up until you meet the bottom of the faucet head and screw it in place until it's snug. Before we can push the vanity securely against the wall, I have to remove the baseboard trim from the bottom of the floor. If you recall, I had previously marked out the location of the vanity on the trim, and now I'm taking a multi-tool and simply cutting through the trim on those marks. Once both cuts have been made, you can easily remove the trim with a simple pry tool. And if you were careful to take good measurements, the vanity should slip right in place. Like a glove. Now we can install the stopper and drain assembly. The stopper is placed into the drain hole at the bottom of the sink and then connected underneath with a series of gaskets and the beginning of the drain assembly, as demonstrated here. The next step is like building a puzzle where you have to connect the drain pipe from the sink to the drain pipe in the wall. There are a number of kits available at the hardware store that you can purchase, which is what I did. So I took all the fittings I had, and this is what I came up with. The only thing left to do is reconnect the water supply lines, turn the faucet on, and check for leaks. And that's exactly what I found. The issue is with my drain assembly. So in a panic, I ran to the hardware store and purchased pretty much every fitting that I could get my hands on to avoid another trip. And I was able to Frankenstein together this setup, which at the end of the day did the job, and that's all that matters. At this point, I could almost see the gold at the end of the rainbow. I just had to take care of a few finishing details, such as adding a new mirror. Oh, yeah! Adding a toilet paper holder.
Next.
Installing a towel hanger. And lastly, applying some silicone to seal the sink against the wall. And that, my friends, is a wrap.
Whew! I am so happy to have that project behind me. I could not be more thrilled with how it turned out, but oh my gosh, that was a lot of work. I cannot believe how much we accomplished in just 5 days turning this thing around. Big shout out to my wife for having the vision to put this thing together. I got the thumbs up from her, so to me, honestly, that's all that matters. Now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go enjoy myself, and we'll catch you on the next one.